All right, we are live. Welcome to the Wednesday Citizen Council live stream. I'm Chris Castleman here with Perry Holman and Brandy Martindale. Hi guys, how's it going?
Good.
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Just chopped a bunch of wood. I heard it was going to rain tomorrow, and I was like, oh no. I thought the sunny weather was going to continue, but it is not. So we've got district elections that just opened up, so people can file for district elections. And here, if I can share my screen here and show the positions, that is a lot of positions. I don't know if people can see the highlighted portions, but that upper left hand corner with the blue box, there's 4 seats on the college board. That's the Southwest Oregon Community College. There's 4 out of 7 seats available. And the lower left with all the green boxes, those are school districts. So if you're in Coos Bay or Bandon or North Bend, Coquille, Myrtle Point, Powers, you've got school board seats open. Most of them have 4. Bandon has 5 out of 7. And then the hospital board is in red, Coquille Valley and Bay Area Hospital. Those are just ones I highlighted. There are a lot of others. If you go to the county website, click the departments drop down and then clerk's office and then elections. It's really confusing because not everybody knows that the elections office is part of the clerk's office. I don't know why they do that, but anyways, are you guys any interest from you guys in running for any of these positions?
Yes, absolutely. I'm in the
Really?
same boat with everything else, though. I have to wait until May when I'm done with my certifications.
Yeah.
Then I can get more involved. But yes,
So
absolutely, I do want to be getting
the
more
big
involved.
elections next year. Next spring is the primaries for like sheriff, clerk, 2 commissioner seats, like at the county level, as well as like city council and things like that. So, how about you, Perry?
I don't think I have a choice.
Have a choice
I don't think
not
anybody
to
has.
or to?
Yeah, everybody has to.
Yeah, I've been pushing this stuff a lot, and then, man, all of a sudden, I've been getting a lot of work, and it's like trying to be spring, and I want to do a nice garden, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna have time for that, like to run a campaign. I have time to go to meetings and be on a board, but man, the campaign, and actually give it, the time and energy it needs. But
Mhm.
that college board seat there is one of them is screaming my name. There's definitely some issues I'd like to clear up at the community college. They're going in the wrong direction. They've allowed a sex offender to work there. I mean, can we get any more ridiculous?
Do we
But
want to?
yeah,
Should we hold off on the updates
I don't
on
want to go
that?
into that right now. My
Okay.
I don't want my blood boiling this early in
Okay.
the show. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we've
ridiculous.
we've got some really spicy
I believe it was
information coming
2010.
out
They
on that.
hired a sex offender who was on parole after molesting 2 students at his teaching gig in Eugene. Lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
they believe that everyone has the right to second chances, and apparently they also have the right to molest their students. But anyways, enough on
So
that.
do you want to wait on that to give updates until we dig a little bit deeper?
I think we can talk about it a little later in the show, because you and
Okay.
I talked yesterday about maybe some ideas we would have. Because a lot of people are asking us like what to do, and it keeps getting pushed out on social media. Or like people are upset, rightfully so. But I want to go to Perry on just anything from the last week or so with crime. Yeah, you got anything for us?
There's too much. So I was actually scrolling through Neighborhood Watch. Um, the I think it was actually a total of 3 police pursuits, 2 inside of Coos Bay with Devin Dunn,
Oh,
one
all the same person.
all the same person.
Jeez.
The first one, he tried to run over, or a deputy, Douglas County deputy was just in his way. And he was in a stolen vehicle, and deputy didn't get hurt, but and then it ended up in Coos Bay. Coos Bay found him. He went through a school zone with a bunch of children around at high speeds. So they stopped the pursuit. And then the next day they found him again, and he was blowing through red lights at like 60 miles an hour. And so they stopped the pursuit again, and then found the vehicle like a half an hour later, abandoned. Put a canine on it, tracked him for a little bit till he got to Newmark, and they quit tracking. And then a day later, they had a search warrant for his house, for the house they knew he was staying at, and I don't know, 5 hours.
Was that the one over by Mingus Park?
Yep, 8th Court.
8th Court and 10th Street? Yeah.
Yep.
That's weird, the 8th and 10th.
Yeah.
Intersect.
And about, I don't know, 5 hours into it, they finally got him out.
That was crazy. I was at the North Bend, North Bend school board meeting, and you and some other people were giving me updates, and there was a policeman there, and we were talking about it, and it was crazy. Went on forever.
Yeah. Yep. He supposedly had a pistol with him. That's why they brought in SWAT and everything. I believe they threw some gas inside to get him out, but it was dark and
some flashbangs.
Yeah, you couldn't really see what was going on, but
it was crazy because there was so many people in the meeting that I had to stand out in the hallway, and you could see out the city hall doors, and it was just like every couple minutes, cops, like state troopers and sheriff's deputies. I mean, you had like everyone in probably like a tri-county area going to this event for hours. It was crazy.
Yeah. There was a lot of cops there, and where is it? Being charged with possession of stolen vehicle, eluding, theft in the first degree, attempt to commit Class C felonies, failure to perform the duties of a driver, and property damage. And so all of this, Coos County wouldn't take him. The jail wouldn't take him. So they put him in Douglas County Jail, and he was out just a couple days later.
Jeez. Do you know at all if they're having the same overcrowding issues, or was it like not getting a public defender in time? Like why did he get released?
I didn't really get to look into that. But it was, I'm wondering if it's not the House Bill 48 where he didn't do anything to be
like high enough,
kept in jail. Yeah.
Jeez. So for people, I'm assuming most people know, but it's like there's 3 main ways you can get bounced if there's not enough space, like our jail. If you don't get an attorney within 7 days, and if there's certain like levels of crimes that are just no bail crimes. And then obviously you could get out on bail, or you could, if you're drunk or high on drugs, our jail won't even take you in most cases. So somebody commented, I'm not sure of this, but they're saying he bailed out, paid 10% of his bail, posted bond. That makes sense too. It's crazy. There's so many ways for criminals to not have accountability. You would hope that someday down the road he's going to go to trial and he's going to be held accountable. But the amount of resources that went towards that to obtain him, and And the risk, I mean, I was standing at that meeting just thinking about it, like so nervous that like, man, we're going to get one of our cops killed or injured or more, or a bystander or something, you know, over what ultimately will end up being probably not much of anything.
How can he have a bail when he ran from police all those times?
Yeah,
I know he's not going to come back.
Like, is it? And I've been trying to nail down how much of this, and there's so much information to dig through. But is this like a county issue, or is this a state issue? From what I have been led to believe, our county's law enforcement hands are tied to a large degree because of state law. Is that accurate?
I mean, in this case, it was probably almost 100% state caused issues. Yeah, especially, I mean, if he just bailed out that easily, if he wasn't given,
right.
I mean, what you and I would assume is appropriate bail, right? Like you caused that much of a community disturbance and risked lives with 3 police pursuits, and a standoff. You'd think somebody would be held, but we've got judges too who are just like not doing a good job. But you know, like if the 3 of us got really upset and wanted to run for judge, it's like that's a long process. So like, I don't know. I don't know.
Judges
I'm feeling bummed.
You're feeling bummed?
Yeah. You're like bummed. Like, what do we do? Like, this is insane, right? Like 3 police pursuits, a whole standoff by a park in Coos Bay. And these are such massive, intricate state level problems for the most part. You've also got the county budgeting issues, which, but it seems like it would have only kept him for a few days. So
I think when it comes to what we can do, Chris, this is what we can do. We can vote to defund all of it. If they won't provide us a system that works, then let's let them fail by financial deficiency, same way as our jail here. I would not vote to fund the jail because the crime wasn't affected by the jail pods being open because it was still catch and release anyway. They couldn't put this guy out in Fairview that's been terrorizing all of us for 4 years now in jail when the pods were fully functioning. So why would I pay more money to deal with the same problem? I think the solution really is we just start voting no and we let it all collapse until they finally figure it out.
That was a concern I had at one point, like last year when they had the 2 pods open. Like they had 98 beds available and they were only maybe 60 to 70 people in there on average.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's a pretty big cost for only, you know, a little bit more. But, you know, you've got the ability then to hold people accountable for misdemeanors. Right now, I mean, you could do any sort of misdemeanor and you're probably going to get about like three days in jail. Yeah. I don't think the judges were. Yeah. I think some of that was the judges. Like the judges weren't giving different sentences. So the jail had opened these cells to availability, and I don't think the judges really kind of got that memo, or the district attorney didn't do a good job of explaining it to the judges that, hey, like if you want to give somebody a normal sentence, you can now, right? Like that, I didn't see that happening either. So what do you think, Barry?
So I went on a walk downtown Coos Bay today, and everywhere you looked, you found broken car windows from cars being broken into. Jeez. It was surprising how many I saw. And
how many did you count off the top of your head if you had to guess?
5. I think it was 5. And there's no accountability. There's no fear of anything. Obviously, no fear of jail. It's just discouraging. It's coming to the point where it's completely up to us to get things to slow down. Things need to happen. We need to be able to catch these guys in the act and give them a reason not to do it again. It's coming to that.
what makes me nervous is the more and more that frustration builds, the more you're like certain people would be a ticking time bomb. I mean, I would hope that I would be able to hold my composure even if I'm frustrated in a situation, but there are people out there who, you know, as frustration builds, like, right, if you're getting your car robbed and your property trespassed on and people being heckled and harassed and your family and stuff, and you're never able to catch the people, and or when you do, they don't go to jail, and then, you know, give that a couple years, and then one day you catch somebody like yanking on your car door trying to get in your car. You know, I don't know.
Yep.
But
they're setting us up for failure. Just like they did to Daniel Penny and Kyle Rittenhouse. It's the exact same shit. They're putting the burden of public safety on the citizen, and it's wrong. This is going to happen. It's an inevitability. When the system, the government's most important job is to provide public safety. If we're not safe, what is the point of having pretty things? It's all a facade. It's a joke.
We're certainly not safe right now. It's like absolute chaos and lawlessness. I mean, like, somebody could hear that and be like, you're being a little crazy, you know, like, I can go to Fred Meyer, but it's like,
shall I touch on a statistic?
You know, like, what people think about this, when in human history have criminals not be held accountable for crimes, and citizens are being prevented from holding them accountable in their own way? I mean, like, not only is the government not holding accountable, but the government would come after citizens for trying to hold them accountable too. Like in other societies in the past, you know, it would just be up to the citizens to take care of it. And then other societies, the government takes care of it. But nowhere in history does no one take care of it. I mean,
what is it saying? The Spartans would have thrown him off a cliff.
Yeah. And I'm not advocating for either, but one of them has to happen. There has to be accountability.
Yes, there has to be accountability. And the government, the way they're operating now, and by government, I really mean like specific leaders who are refusing to acknowledge how bad crime is and just keep pushing, like, let's make things pretty. Meanwhile, women are getting shoved onto the ground in attempted rapes in front of Walmart. And it's insulting to our intelligence. You know, I was there when it happened. That could have been me. And if it would have been
people
me,
who might not have heard about that.
Do you want to get into it now?
I mean, don't get into it with me. But no, seriously, it's not even funny, actually. So I read a press release the other day that made my stomach turn and my blood boil. So, but you can go into it. The Walmart.
So, yeah, I went to Walmart to go pick up my groceries around 5:30 in the afternoon, and I had a coaching call right after. So I parked in the back of the parking lot right there in front of Starbucks. And as I'm on my coaching call, I see a bunch of police coming into the sirens going and everything coming in, or lights going, pull into the parking lot. And I thought, you know, probably a shoplifter. No, it wasn't a shoplifter. A 32-year-old dude had thrown a 19-year-old girl onto the ground, complete stranger, and tried to rape her. 2 men intervened. I think quite a few people intervened, pulled him off of her. If that would have been me, that dude would be dead, because I would have pulled out my pistol and I would have unloaded on him. And that's what needs to happen. If someone tries to rape you, kill them. Period. And I have a legal right to say that, and people have a legal right to do it. A man can kill a woman with his bare hands. Strangulation is one of the most common ways that men kill women. They don't even need a weapon to do it. And so we need to be teaching women how to protect themselves, because obviously our leaders don't care about protecting us. Otherwise, they would be talking about it a heck of a lot more. And so a little statistic for you guys. Because the Coos Bay police, I don't know who chose to insert this utterly ignorant comment line on this media release.
I think I can bring it up here.
Although this type of incident is not common in Coos Bay, well, let me tell you all a little statistical fact about Coos Bay, because I lived in New York City for 8 years, And I had to listen to people from my home county talk about how dangerous the big bad city is. So I got curious because I was a sociology major and I was heavily working with statistics. It was a systems analyst coming out of college. And so I thought, hey, this is really simple math. I'm going to do a little demographics research. And I found just now that my findings in 2011 were the same that they are now. And the rape rate for New York City is 0.019 per 1,000. Per 1,000 is a per capita measurement. It's how we tend to measure statistics in population demographics. So the overall rape rate for New York City is about 0.02 if you're rounding. The rape rate for Coos Bay, Oregon is 1.2 per 1,000. So if anyone wants to do the math, what's that? 0.2, is that 10? How many times more is that? I'm not that good at math. I can calculate statistics, but what kind of multiplier is that? Because while it might seem uncommon because we don't have very many people, for the amount of people we have incredibly high crime and incredibly high violent crime.
Yeah, per capita for sure.
And it's, it's an insult to victims when they sit there and say, although this incident is very uncommon. Well, you know what? When you're a victim of that crime, it doesn't feel uncommon. And so many of us are becoming victims to this crime, like all of it. Like 5 cars broken into, Terry. Terry, do you want to guess how many people I know of that had their car broken into in the 8 years I lived in New York City? Take a guess.
Probably none.
One.
Yep.
I know of one person that had their car window broken out so that somebody could steal their GPS in the 8 years I lived in New York City. So are people really going to sit back and tell us that although this is unusual or although this is infrequent, it's not common, we have a major crime issue? And again, I am staunchly against giving these people another penny until they address public safety. That's my hard line, and I think that's what we can all do. Until these people value our physical safety, give them no money. And I will say this as loudly on whatever public forum I can possibly get on. I'm going to get up on my soapbox and preach it, because the only way to make these people listen to us is to get inside their wallet and take our money back from them.
Yeah. It certainly, something needs to give, right? I mean,
it's the only power
the trajectory we're headed towards is not a good place. I'm not totally sold on the defund them, but I'm not saying it's like a bad idea, because we need an idea. We need something,
only power we
but
have.
it's like, yeah, right. Like they follow the money. They only do things if they have money for them, and they're defunding themselves because they're not allocating these funds to public safety. They have tons of funds. They're giving grants out, multi-million-dollar grants out for homelessness and shit. And
they're giving $25,000 grants to business owners to improve the facade of the building that the business owner owns. So you're giving public money to straight up a private entity. And what is the public getting out of that?
Yeah,
$25,000 isn't enough to increase their property taxes. So why it's the only thing they listen to is whether or not they get money. And we're at a point right now where they've been told no, and reacted very interestingly to that no answer, borderline abusively, maybe even. And so this is the only thing that gets their attention, is telling them no until they actually pay attention to our public safety and implement public safety measures.
Well, check out, this is from the city of Coos Bay from their annual report. This is 9 years, 10 years, past decade, showing their contribution to PERS. I mean, that's more than doubling. That's like a 250% increase or some crap like that. I mean, that's a big increase.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen our public safety services in Coos Bay get that sort of increase in effectiveness?
Not.
I mean, has our county and city governments had that much of an increase in effectiveness? I mean, I've seen it gone the other way.
Yeah.
These are the graphs we're not supposed to look at.
Here's the thing. I don't want to see our systems fail. I don't want to see the jail closing pods. I don't want to see deputies being laid off. I don't want to see our city struggling for money. But until they stop spending $65,000 on holiday decorations to make a city look pretty when it is not safe, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I have that chart, but that was from we found that out last week. That was from the North Bend Urban Renewal Agency. They spend around $65,000 a year on holiday decorations for North Bend. It's like, do you know what the county could do with $65,000 towards drug enforcement?
And the excuse is, well, this is federal money being given to us. This is not, we can't use the money for everything else. And my answer is, then let's cut off the federal money too, because they're not doing a wise job of spending it either. If our federal government doesn't care about our physical safety and says, yeah, we'll give you some money for Christmas decorations, then we can cut off the federal government too. And I believe that is in progress. So until they listen, I'll tell you guys a little story. When I lived in New York, I lived there from the age of 26 to 32, maybe 31, somewhere in there. And so 25, but so I spent, my early adulthood there, and we would pretty regularly take limo rides around Manhattan and club hop and bar hop, and there were times when I was running around Manhattan very intoxicated, barefoot, in a cocktail dress at 4 o'clock in the morning in 78-degree weather, the middle of Manhattan, without a care in the world. I did not even have to question my safety all over the city. And I asked myself if I could do something like that, weather permitting, in Coos Bay. And the answer is no. I'm not safe to run around in a, cocktail dress, drunk in Coos Bay, barefoot. It's not safe for us. And I look at, I lived in New York City under Bloomberg, and he came under fire during the presidential election for his racist stop and frisk policies and stuff like that. I can tell you right now that those policies were effective, and they kept the crime isolated in neighborhoods where the criminals lived. They didn't want to leave their neighborhoods and go terrorize people in other neighborhoods because they would get stopped and they would get busted. They would get searched. They would get caught with drugs, weapons, things like that. And so crime was kept super, super low. It was so safe, and it was so fun. It was such a great place to live and work. I could, and the last time I went back, I believe it was 2022, and I had to take the train out of Penn Station and to get back to Queens at 11 o'clock at night. And it was literally the corridor that I had to walk through to get to the train was like something out of Silent Hill. It was lined with junkie bums who were catcalling us. And the lights were flickering, straight up out of a horror movie. And I just looked down this corridor, realizing that this is where I had to walk through to get home. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, well,
we
I
have that
guess
in
here
Coos
we
Bay.
go.
It's called the Second Street Alley
Yep. And that's how quickly
by
a
Domino's.
city can turn. That's how quickly a place can change because of leadership and because of policies and because of ideology that does not consider unintended consequences. We are looking at the same situation in Coos County right now. And if we don't draw a hard line and demand change, it's going to get worse because the people in charge are not, they don't have a plan. Public safety is not even on the Coos Bay's list of priorities. And where they do mention public safety, it's making sure that people know how to get out of their house if it catches on fire.
Yeah, evacuations and fire drills and stuff like that. That was their public safety. That was their city plan or something, their strategic plan for the next couple of years. DEI was number one. They want to make sure that everything's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And public safety in terms of law enforcement,
it wasn't on
or drug enforcement or rehab or anything like that was nowhere to be found on their strategic plan. But you know, they're trying real hard. They're trying their darndest. They just don't know any better, you know. But
I guess we should
one thing we have found success with in the past week or so, Perry, I don't know if you remember us setting this camera up.
Oh yeah,
in the woods. There you are looking at the camera. That's funny. So we set up this trail cam, and it's a cellular trail cam. So I get notifications on my phone. It's pretty neat. Requires no wires, runs off cell towers. Pretty good batteries. Anyways, we set this up at an entrance to a bum camp, and we've actually gotten some hits. And prior to having this camera up, it was just up to us to have to patrol this area, you know, when we can and go in there. And it's time consuming, especially because, like, you know, the majority of the time you go in there, you don't see anybody because we're pretty good at it, keeping people out. But then when you do, you might have missed them by a couple days, and they've got this whole elaborate thing set up. And it's really hard once they're set up, you know, to get them out of there.
So maybe instead of holiday decorations, the city should spend that $65,000 on satellite cameras so that they can actually start securing our public spaces for us.
Right. Do you know how much $65,000, or even if they cut that budget by 10% and put $6,500, even 1%, give $650, could set up 5 of these cameras for a year. To purchase them and service them for a year. Yep. But, you know, the city of North Bend doesn't have problems like this, do they? You know, they don't have homeless living in the woods, like behind Bottle Drop, Jurgens Jewelers. There's no one back there in the woods.
Just ask Millline.
Yeah, there's no one along the Pony Creek dumping feces into the creek, so it just flows out of their camp and they don't have to deal with it.
You know, I think if our public leaders came to us with a spending plan, like they said, okay, we want X number of dollars, and here's our plan. Like, here's our plan for public safety, and they kind of packaged it all together. Like, if we get the money to do this project, we're going to create these safety initiatives. If they even showed an interest in promoting public safety and kind of weaving public safety into the policies and into the projects, I feel like people would be way more supportive. But it seems like they're just ignoring our safety needs and pushing these development projects. And it makes people not care about the projects because they're worried about their mailbox. They're worried about their house. They're worried about their car. They're worried about their daughter or their wife being thrown on the ground at 6 o'clock in the evening in Walmart, on a Walmart parking lot, being raped. Like,
that's great. Broad daylight. Somebody attempted to rape somebody, broad daylight in the Walmart parking lot. Where are we?
It's wild. And last year it was carjacking. It was a carjacking at knife point at 5:30 in the afternoon, and I was there when that happened too. Why this stuff always happens when I'm trying to pick up my groceries?
It's crazy. You know what I'll say too? Like, we blame the leadership, but we have to think about our role in this. And, you know, we train people, whether it's in our personal lives, like our personal relationships, or at our work. We train people in a way how to treat us.
Yes,
and I
sir.
think as a society, we have trained our leaders that they can do this to
Yes,
us,
sir.
and that they can get away with it. They'll get reelected. They are not held accountable, and they can spend our money on Christmas decorations instead of public safety, and they'll still have a job and they'll still get elected. And we've trained them to do that. So we need to fix that and hold people to a higher standard. I think they're just like, they don't have to try. They can go to work, go to the city council and do the job they're doing now. And people find that enough people find, I guess the majority, because they're elected, find it acceptable. That's our level of acceptable in this area. And unfortunately, the minority who do not feel that way are suffering. Everyone's suffering, but some people, I guess, don't care about crime. But I guess it's pretty cool though that we had a little win with the trail cams, because past week got a notification on my phone, went right down there, and just politely said, you're trespassing on private property, and I'll be back in an hour. Can you please, and I was there within a half an hour. So they didn't have a whole camp set up. They were just kind of like looking around, thinking about it, and it worked.
That's what it's going to take to push these people out of our county.
I bought 4 more of them.
To help them.
Yeah.
Period.
But we do. So I got 4 more cameras, and I'm going to set them up, and I'm going to maybe, like, after a month or so more of it, if it's really like a thing, bring it up to the city council. Like, hey, you guys should do this. Costs very little money, and it would be something that they could monitor and deal with, nip things in the bud, so that there's not these massive encampments getting set up. And then it's a whole different set of laws too, to unwind that. We've got a message from Jeff here. It's not about what's best. It's about what gets less complaints. So if anything, Christmas decorations in North Bend, people probably love that and tell the city that it was the most beautiful Christmas they've ever seen, and it's amazing. And they're just kind of going like this and not looking at the bums who camp every night on the harbor because they're allowed to.
I don't know.
Even though there's campgrounds, doesn't make sense. Like, the cities, because of the state, they made them come up with these plans. Like, where can people camp? It's like, that's a really dumb fucking question. They can camp in campgrounds. Like, what? Anyway, I can't. Sorry, I cursed. All right. Perry, what do you think? You've been awfully quiet.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been running around town for 3 years, and I haven't had to actually pay attention to what's going on around me until lately. And that's how much worse it's gotten.
You mean kind of like head on a swivel, making sure
you
know what's around you. Oh, wow. I mean, I've never carried a gun in my life anywhere. And I don't do it to like feel awesome now. I do it because this place is freaking weird in terms of crime. And it's people aren't held accountable. And because of that, not that I'm going to hold them accountable, it's because of them knowing that there's no accountability. They're committing crimes and being more aggressive than anywhere I've ever seen in this country. Mm-hmm. And I've been around.
It's egregious.
So that scares me. Like, that puts me in a situation where I am fearful of my life when I've never been nervous with homeless people approaching me in any other city. Never been nervous. I'm pretty good with people, and even if somebody's a little whacked out and maybe even a little aggressive, I'm not normally nervous at all. But around here, I don't get close to them.
There was a guy, when I lived in New York, I would go through Times Square, and to get to my connecting train, it would take me downtown to work or uptown to school. And there was a guy you come in on the queue, and it's for the 1, 2, and 3 trains. And there was a dude on that platform, that specific platform. He kind of looked like you, Chris. He was just he kind of had like the beard and the long hair, and he would play bongos, and he was a homeless dude, and he was like, I forget how it happened. Well, one day I was kind of standing there, and we kind of made friends, and like he was very non-threatening, you know, and that was how the majority of the homeless people were in New York. And every time I would see him, we would like wave at each other. And one time I
Yeah.
was walking through the subway with a man friend of mine, and we walked by my friend, and he looked at me, and he just lit up, and he smiled, and I waved at him. And as we walked by, the man turned to me, and he said, "That guy smiled at you." And I said, "Oh yeah, we're friends." And he was kind of like, "Oh, okay." But that's how the homeless people were in New York. They were gentle, kind people that just, you know, like maybe lived an alternative lifestyle or whatever. It's very different now. What I experienced in 2022 when I went through Penn Station, those were not the homeless people that I lived in New York City with during from 2015 to 2013.
Yeah.
No, wait,
But even
2005
like
to 2013.
I lived in San Francisco like 2015, 2016, 2017, and there were people pooping on the sidewalk.
It was, yeah,
and have needles, but they were never aggressive. I never once felt scared. And I would walk around the city at night, you know, like you're saying, bar hopping, late at work, walking home at night. You know, it's like never ever felt nervous. Never had anyone come up to me and be aggressive. I don't think it's like that now. No. I had a cafe in a town in California, a little north of San Francisco, for a couple years, and I knew all the homeless people. Like you said, you could wave to them, first name basis, and no one talked of the word trespassing. We didn't trespass people. It wasn't necessary. No. I had one guy steal a cookie, and I'm like, you don't ever do that again. He's like, what? What? It's just a cookie. I go, get out. And he got out. You know, he didn't, oh yeah, you can't make me. That's what would happen around here.
Very aggressive here. Very aggressive.
And they are. And it's because they have been emboldened by a weak leadership who will not use the full extent of the law to make bad decisions very unpleasant for these individuals.
Yeah. Kelly's just reiterating.
Yeah, so I moved. When I left New York City in 2013, and when I left, a friend of mine that same summer had taken a job in San Francisco, and so me and him drove across the country together, and then I flew back, and like within a couple of months, I moved back up to Washington. And when I stayed in San Francisco with him for like 4 days, and it was, and this would have been 2013. I wasn't comfortable. Like, we went to go look at luxury apartments because I was going to like director of operations or something. It was a great job, great pay. He could afford a really nice apartment, and their luxury apartments were like New York hood. After 4 days, I was ready. I'm ready to go. This place is too weird for me, and I'm ready to go back to New York City. San Francisco scares me. So
yeah, that's crazy. Well, if people want to something that works, setting up these cameras have been working. So if anybody has a bum camp near them, a hot spot that has been a problem, especially if it's on your own property, and it's been an issue, and you don't currently have a camera set up, whether it's Wi-Fi cameras, you know, doorbell cameras, or something out in the woods, you know, remote, I can hook you up and help you and figure something out. Because it seems like the more of these problems that you deal with immediately, as soon as they're an issue, and I know not everybody's home all the time, you know, you're at work, but we can even set them up so we'll help monitor them. And if, you know, you give me permission, I will come out there and, you know, kindly ask people to leave, move along. And the sooner you get to it, the better. Cheryl gave us some kudos. I'm glad we're on the same team too, Cheryl. Cheryl's my fave.
Yeah, we have some really great people that are supporting us and engaging with us. It's awesome. Thank you.
We have some consistent supporters, that is for sure. Appreciate a lot of people out there.
It's scary to call powerful people out on what are essentially failures. They're failing to keep us safe. And I can't stress enough how useless the jail levy was, because crime was not any better. Like, it was the same catch and release. It was the same. It's Oregon state laws that are kind of limiting how long they can keep people in jail and things like that. And so we really, when I talk about, like, we talk about change and what can people do, and that's so important. And I love that you always keep bringing us back to that, Chris, of what we can do.
Try to, because we'll lose our minds if we can't do anything.
I know.
And there's always something we can do. There's always something we can work towards. There's always something.
Join a board.
But
vote no to give more money until these people start addressing our public safety, and they put it at the forefront of their minds, in the forefront of their speeches, in the forefront of their priorities. Tell them no more money. It's the only power we have. And it sucks because, like, don't get me wrong, I love Christmas decorations. Okay, I would love to spend $65,000 on Christmas decorations to make Coos Bay and North Bend beautiful, and I understand the value in that. But we can't be dealing with that when we have the kind of crime rate that makes a place like New York City look safe. It's not acceptable. And I think we need to get it out of our heads that this is just the way it is, because it doesn't have to be like this. Let's start exercising our laws to the full extent that we can to make life as unpleasant as we possibly can for criminals. Like, let's really make their life unpleasant. They'll either take up they'll do something different, or they'll leave.
Yeah, hopefully they'll move along and go to somewhere else that doesn't tolerate them either, and then eventually realize that this is not a fun game to play. This is the
state starts locking them up. That's all we can do.
Yeah, this is the budget from last year for the Urban Renewal Agency in North Bend. So it's not the full city council budget. This is the Urban Renewal Agency, and that third line item there, $65,000 for Christmas decorations. Pretty wild. Phil says, just for perspective, that's $65,000 for Christmas decorations, just 1 month, and then they sit in storage for 11 months. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love, the holidays and seeing everything all lit up and beautiful, but if you're deciding between that and tweakers and criminals running around without any consequences, I don't know.
Where it says holiday decorations, shouldn't that line item say public safety officer?
Yeah. Or do a smaller version, be thrifty. Like, if we're in times where budgets are tight, don't make them look like this, Yeah. But
$65,000 is a lot of money to spend on Christmas decorations.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know the extent of it. Maybe holiday decorations isn't just Christmas. Maybe it's like also Halloween and all those other holidays.
Yeah. But it's, until public safety is a priority, I will say I'm not particularly comfortable going and hanging out in downtown Coos Bay. I don't know where downtown North Bend would be. There's not the same kind of strip but it's just not a place where I would want to bar hop or go hanging out late at night with what's going on right now, the way things are. And I think until they pay attention to it, until it's brought to the forefront, we just have to say, no, we're not gonna give our money to anymore until we get our needs met.
Yeah.
It's the only power I can think of that we have.
Yeah. I think it's also, you mentioned bar hopping in North Bend. The Urban Renewal Agency added North 40 Brewery into North Bend. And it's like they're focusing on that when you've got rampant crime.
I do want to go check out the North 40. I want to give them a chance, and if the food is delicious, I think they serve food, don't they?
Yeah, but
I'm not a big beer person, but I'll.
You know, they use tax dollars to buy the Ciccarelli's building and then bring in an out of town brewery. And I don't want to get into it on this show, but I've heard some things about the original owners that they brought in, and there were some issues, so they had to kind of force a management change or an ownership change, I think. And just not good stuff. Kelly says she'd like to see a itemized list of materials and services. I would too. You can probably request it if you're interested, but it's a pain in the ass to go and have to ask that stuff from the city when it should be kind of listed more.
I look at, like, especially being in the position, like having lived the way I lived for the last 2.5 years, I think I'm really just budget sensitive. Me and my husband lived in an RV for the last 2.5 years while we remodeled our home. And we did a lot on a very tight budget, and we sacrificed so much. And we had to like make it happen. And I look at how much we squeezed out of so little. Like, we made every penny go so far. And then I look at my county and I see that they're not doing the same. And it makes me a little bit resentful because I can't run my household the way that the city is running their financial books, the way they spend. And it's just like, why are you using my money in a way that I wouldn't even use my money?
And they're shooting themselves in the foot, because this is the graph that it kind of explains. It's a complicated system, but this oversimplifies it a little bit. And this is urban renewal. So they designate an urban renewal area. They circle, a bunch of houses and stuff on the map. And what they do with the taxes for those people, and this affects all of the taxing districts that those people pay taxes to, they freeze it. When that urban renewal agency is created, so North Bend's was created in 1994, it freezes those people's taxes at the 1994 level. And as everybody knows, property taxes go up each. Oh, can you hear me?
I'm still alive. Okay, you're back.
I'm back. So it everybody's taxes go up like at least at most 3% every year, but it's about 3% every year, which doubles your taxes every 20 years, roughly. And so you're paying more taxes, but if you're in an urban renewal area, all of the taxes to like the county and the college and the airport and the school, they all get frozen at the 1994 level if you're in the North Bend urban renewal area. And anything on top of that goes to the urban renewal district. And that's how they did the skating rink in North Bend. That's how they brought in the North 40 brewery. That's how they redid the Liberty neon lights, and it goes on and on and on. The 1994, I mean, that's 30 years now, going on 31 years. And that graph is not an exaggeration. So of that urban renewal area, North Bend, and the 1994 level, it was a $30 million assessed value for all those properties. And now it's over 60 million. It's more than doubled. So everything above 30 million, so it's, up to like 68 million, I think now. So that 38 million that is increased in value from 1994 goes to the Urban Renewal Agency, the taxes on that assessed value. And they act like it's a benefit. And all the taxing districts are affected. The county loses, I think it's like $60,000 they lose. For that goes towards this every year. And it's crazy. And even the county, or even the school district, the school board loses out. They lose like $200,000. And the city itself loses like $200,000. I'm trying to find the numbers here. Give me a second. I just found it. And I have to click a million things.
I don't mind the investment in our infrastructure, but I will not support infrastructure development. I won't support any of this making things nice without public safety. Like that is for me, that is the line. And they keep saying that we have the second lowest taxes in the state, as if it's a bad thing. They keep saying, well, our taxes are the second lowest.
Right.
We already have very low taxes. Yes, let's become the first lowest.
But they're not even using the taxes that are being generated, that are the revenue that's coming in. So this chart shows and we have 7 urban renewal districts in the county. So this is just one of them, and it's not the biggest. It's like the 4th biggest, maybe. It's like right in the middle. This is the money that gets diverted. So all of this money should be going to all those taxing districts, but instead, the North Bend City Council back in 1994 formed this urban renewal agency, and it's siphoning all of this money. And it's even siphoning it from the city of North Bend. So that top line item, City of North Bend, they lose $240,000 from their general fund, which funds essential services.
Safety.
Right, funds public safety, and it gets diverted to urban renewal to paint murals, to put up, Liberty Theater signs, neon lights, Christmas decorations. It pays $10,000 of the city administrator's salary. I mean, things other than what it should be going towards, and they do it in the name of progress. Do you see a lot of progress around here when we're eroding into a lawless society?
Look, to be fair, yes, I do see the infrastructure development, and I do appreciate it, but not at the cost of my physical safety. That's right. And it may not even be like, okay, we need to spend money differently. Maybe it's just that we need to enforce regulations differently. Maybe it's we need to adopt different policies and enforce different policies. And so these cities, and here's my ask to them, look at all of our regulations, all of our codes, and how far can we take them? How vicious can we be? How unpleasant can we make life for criminals and take it to the extreme? Give them hell. Give them the level of hell that they've been giving us since Kate Brown unleashed all of these mental patients on us in 2020.
Yeah, well, and she let a lot of them go at the end of her term.
And if the state of Oregon is going to inflict upon us all of these mentally ill people who are really terrorizing our communities.
Yeah. Well, and Kelly's comment, I think Kelly's comments about Coos Bay, right? They built all those new retail locations over on the waterfront, and essentially they just moved people from North Bend, businesses from North Bend and other places into these nicer places, and then the old locations are just vacant, sitting there, and they have no plan for it. I don't really understand what that's about, but
I love that waterfront. I really do, and it sucks that it just has given a new home to people who've left the Pony Village Mall, because the mall was run into the ground by people who don't even live here. They live in Alaska, and they're basically just slumlords. And God, I hope they see this, because I'm so disgusted by what they did to the mall that I grew up loving to go visit. And so,
but why did the waterfront have to be commercial, right? Like, why? That would have been a really cool location for condos or something, and I mean, I guess you don't want like a ton of people walking back and forth across Highway 101, but I don't know. There's just what's going on right now doesn't look right. You look around and you're like, I don't know. Does any of it totally make sense? I'd love to see, like, I go into North Bend and like the murals are great. Like those are pretty cool murals in North Bend, or like the Urban Renewal Agency in Coos Bay paid for the Steve Prefontaine murals. I'm a huge Steve Prefontaine fan, and those are really cool murals. Yeah. But if we're in a situation where it's one or the other.
Yeah. And is it a zero-sum game? Because if it's all about the money,
Well, that's
Okay,
what they
then
tell
don't
us.
spend our money on Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
If it's all about money, I think it's not just money, it's culture and it's regulation enforcement. I think it's largely a culture of permissiveness. Stop feeding them. Stop giving them socks. Stop giving them things.
Yeah.
Literally, let them starve on the street or go get help. Those need to be the only two options. And I don't mean to sound cruel. I know this comes off as kind of heartless, but I have grown up around this. I grew up in like not a good situation here in Coos, like your typical white trash, trailer trash, drug addict, Coos County. And I have to say that so that my mom doesn't get mad. My mother was never a drug addict. She did her best and she was a teen mom, but because we were poor, we were in these kinds of situations. And so I see the stuff that I grew up with still going on. And it's really, really, really frustrating when nobody's
Yeah.
talking about the stuff that ruins children's lives. Listen, Christmas decorations are not going to give a 6-year-old like a great Christmas. Having family stability and a community who intervenes when a child is in an abusive situation, that's what improves our children's lives. And so I just wish that there was some priority shifting, I guess. It needs to happen.
We've got 2 comments I got to get to. Cheryl said that she sent you a message. She didn't know how to bring it up on the show, but so I don't know if you're able to check messages. Seems like Cheryl sent you something. And Kelly asked, what's the buzz about putting homes in Simpson Park or something like that? I have not looked into this. I did hear about it briefly, and they mentioned it at the North Bend City Council meeting. They implied that it's fake news, but they also didn't say that it's not happening, which, if you know them, tells me that it might be happening, but I don't know.
Well, they've just spent a bunch of money to rehabilitate Simpson Park. That would be kind of a waste of money if they're just going to turn it into something else, wouldn't it?
I have a feeling it wouldn't happen even if that's their plan. But, you never know.
So, Cheryl, I think what we should do, this looks like a pretty in-depth situation. Why don't we review this? I've seen this too. So why don't we review this and maybe talk about it on our next show?
All right.
It looks like it
pretty
was,
vague, but yeah, if in general, if people ever have anything that they want us to investigate or talk about, let us know, because we like doing that, and a lot of times it's probably something, if you're interested in it and it frustrates you or troubles you, then it probably has that same effect on other people. Yeah. But Cheryl says, sounds good. She's still tuning in. We have some dedicated people, because I know we can be long-winded sometimes.
I know. Both of us are, so it's like a combination of just,
Yeah, I'm learning to shut up, so it's working. I want to talk about the city of North Bend's messaging around the urban renewal stuff. So they had this big vote that they were trying to increase that tax, the allotment that they can get for urban renewal, from 11 point something million dollars to $46 million. So over the past 30 years, they've been allowed to spend up to just over $11 million. They wanted to increase it for the next 30 years to allow them to spend another like 30 some million dollars. And it went before the school board, because the school board is one of the largest taxing districts that would be affected by that. So any urban renewal agency that wants to change, especially that massive of a change, they have to go to the other taxing districts, and they have to get 75% of the taxing districts to agree. So if they couldn't get the North Bend School Board to agree, it was dead on the water. So that's why it was held at the North Bend School Board. And they tried to make it about this annex project, renovating the old county annex building that they bought in 2021 and 4 years ago. And it's a $19 million project. So I don't know why they were asking for 30 some million, but they did. And they tried to make it about that. And the day before the meeting, Jessica Engelke and David Milliron put out this press release from the city accusing the school board of essentially not being patriots and not following free speech, not allowing people the opportunity to express their opinion and views on the subject. So you can read the whole thing. It's on the North Bend website, but I highlighted that portion at the bottom where it says, it is deeply troubling that the school board chair is choosing to silence community voices by arbitrarily limiting public comment, an outright violation of their own board policy. So that, I mean, I love free speech. I love being able to express my views.
Of that
right.
Criticism. Yeah.
The last show we had,
absolutely.
This press release had been put out like an hour before our show, and we brought it up and talked about it, and we were like, yeah,
I was excited and super supportive.
They were gonna limit who could talk, how many people could talk, what they could talk about, and what happened on Thursday, the next day, what transpired was they allowed anybody to talk, and they were only given 3 minutes, but you could talk about whatever you want for 3 minutes. Whoever was there, you signed up beforehand, but even people who didn't sign up, they opened it to anybody who wanted to talk, and it took well over an hour. But the vote didn't go the way the city wanted. The school board voted 6-1 against the plan, and it failed. So the city of North Bend's Urban Renewal agency is facing closure. It's most likely going to go away, and that those tax dollars will be returned to the citizens. And the proposal was rejected. The proposal by the city was rejected. So they lost. And if I can quickly switch here and bring up Friday's press release. So, 48 hours later, you then have this press release that goes out. And the highlighted portion says they, the school board, entertained public comment from outside partisan actors who presented misinformation and disinformation to derail the Urban Renewal Plan amendment. That's quite a flip-flop there.
So
what do you think about that?
I was kind of taken aback by, okay, so full transparency, I felt a little bit guilty, and I don't want to purport in any way that the mayor watches our show and cares what I have to say. But I did feel a little bit like, I went on to encourage, yeah, we need leaders who are going to call each other out. This is not what I meant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, if I'm going to instigate, stuff like this, yes, defending freedom of speech aggressively is 100% on the nose. However, going on to say that, to accuse the board of, quote unquote, instead of looking at the facts, the board allowed misinformation, fear, and politics to drive a decision that hurts the very people they were elected to serve. Can we not come after the school board for, first of all, being very uncomfortable being put in the position to vote on this in the first place? It's not an appropriate choice for them to make. And to go on to attack them, there was a quote I wanted to read, but I'm going to have to find it. But this is the line between being a leader and being a bully.
Yeah.
And she crossed the line here.
She showed her true colors. Most people, when they win and lose, emotions are high. They show their true colors. And I think we just saw who Jessica Engelke and David Milliron, the city administrator, are.
This is not a good color. She should have, we are deeply disappointed. The fight for smart, responsible development, and so it's kind of throwing out these words. So what, are they not smart? Like, you put these people in a position that they were uncomfortable to be in, and now that they kind of said, ooh, we don't want to be responsible for this, they're being attacked. I mean,
yeah. Well, and look at, like, if you just glance at the right hand side of that, the every other line, the ending, it's like dash dash gone, dash dash dash
yes,
rejected, dash dash dash
yes,
ignored. And the amount of like bold things in this statement, and this is a much larger statement,
yes.
you know, if you look it up online, the amount of things that are bolded versus the other statement where like things really weren't bolded. It's like, did someone write this while they were drunk in a rage and use AI to do it? I mean, it's pathetic, really, honestly.
I feel that
It's like, it's embarrassing. And it's
very inappropriate to be on the North Bend City website. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate to post this without posting a response or a rebuttal from the board, because some board members did feel the need to actually defend themselves and publish their own statement. If the city of North Bend is not going to publish the statements by the school board justifying their decision, then how dare they attack them? This is bullying. This is weaponizing.
Well, and they're not being impartial. You know, you've got like, look, like we're on this show showing, you know, what they want people to hear. They want people to know what was lost, right? Here it is, people. This is what they say was lost. Okay. But then what they won't show you is this, because this is also what's lost. If you keep urban renewal, that all that blue area is lost. It's stolen from other taxing districts. And what was just gained by eliminating the urban renewal proposal is that blue area was just gained. It's now, so if you look at the far right, when the urban renewal agency expires, everything catches up and it gets flooded back. All those incremental tax increases from 1994 are given back. It doesn't go back in time, but you know, they're now given at the level they should be given to the 4-H, the college, the libraries, the county, the school board. These are all important services that taxpayers voted. At some point in time, taxpayers voted to incorporate or to form these taxing districts for a reason. And only a city council decided to form the Urban Renewal Agency. It was not a vote of the people. And that's BS in my opinion. But
you know, I support development. I support these projects that they're doing. I like the new shopping center that they built, the Seven Devils Brewery right there on the water. It's a nice place to go. I like the mural. I like the Christmas decorations. But they're going about it the wrong way. You cannot be, this isn't right to weaponize your media outlets that are associated with your governance system is wrong. And to not give the board of directors an opportunity to publicly rebuttal on the same platform, it's bullying and it's wrong. And it's unbecoming of a leader.
We need better leaders.
We shouldn't have, this was fully inappropriate. And, you know, I've said on the show that I have been a supporter of Jessica. I thought she's accomplished some really great things. This is unbecoming. This should be taken down and she should apologize. It's not right.
She won't.
It's not right to attack our school board.
They've got an issue.
Thought they was the best thing for them to do. They were put in a position that they didn't even want to be in. Jessica wants it approved. Put it to the voters. Let the people decide where they want their money to go. Don't just put it on a school board who doesn't really even, shouldn't have the authority to make these decisions for our entire municipality.
Well, what you would do as a leader, you would want to help them make the decision by giving them the best amount of information. And the best information you could give them would be if you put a ballot measure, an advisory ballot measure out there to these other taxing districts, so it would be the whole county, and propose your plan to the whole county and say, is this something you would like to see your tax dollars diverted towards. And if that passes, and I would say it'd have to be 2/3 majority, because I guess I think differently than other people. But let's just say it's a simple majority, and you come in with the printout, you show it, hey, this is the printout from the clerk's office showing we have a 51% majority who agree with this plan. You can then bring that to the school board, and it would help convince them to agree with your plan. And it would insulate them from attacks from people if they did agree with it. If they have constituents that would be bad, they can be like, look, it was up to a vote of the people, and I'm just passing that through.
Yes.
North Bend City Council deserves this money because the citizens voted for it. It was a majority, but they don't do that. Because they're lazy and weak is why. They're not going to put in the time.
Reason, but okay.
Okay,
I don't think they're lazy. I do think that they're being weak, but I don't think they're lazy. I do think that people are very hard workers. The problem is their hubris, their ego. They're thinking about what they think is best, rather than what the people actually want. Maybe what the people want is not what's best, but who are you, people in positions of governance, to tell the people what's best for them?
Yeah. Well, when I say lazy, what I mean by that is when I say lazy, it's because this to me is the easiest way for them to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish with the annex building. And the harder way would have been to try and find a private developer to come in. Like, for instance, so they said it's a $19 million project for this annex. They had it 4 years ago when they still had a couple $1,000,000 left in their urban renewal agency. So what they could have done is spent that couple $1,000,000 to demolish the annex, clean and develop that property, clean it up, and have it ready for a developer to come in. And that would have been a loss to the city. They wouldn't have been able to recoup that. However, maybe listing that property then for $500,000 would have attracted a private developer to come in and build condos. And they would have sold it. It would have been a loss. It would have been a couple $1,000,000 loss, but then they'd have their project. And it would be in the hands of a private developer. And because of that, it would be on the tax rolls and it would bring in property tax revenue. But they didn't do that because that's harder. They thought they for sure had this vote tied up and they were going to get this money and they were going to do it with urban renewal funds and a $4 million grant from the federal government. And that was their easy way out. So I'd like to see them turn it around and do something with it. But at this point, they're broke. So 4 years ago, they had that couple $1,000,000 that they could have developed the property, demolish the building and get it ready. They don't have that money anymore. So they spent it on the Ciccarelli's building that the North 40 Brewery moved into. They spent it on these other projects. Now they're broke. They can't do anything with the annex building.
Right.
And now it's just going to sit there, which is ironic because urban renewal, the whole concept of an urban renewal agency is to remove blight. Now the city owns, the urban renewal agency owns a massive building in the middle of downtown North Bend that they have no money to maintain or develop. The definition of blight.
Yeah.
That building is now concrete blight. It's wild.
So there's a quote that I really like, and I can't find it online, but I have it memorized. It's a Peter Block quote, and I have met him in person and sassed him at one of his. I love him, but we disagree on some stuff. But so what his quote was: "Every time I think I know what's best for you, I colonize your mind." And so when we think about the history of colonization globally, and we look at what is modern contemporary colonization, it is the act of thinking that we know what's best for someone. And I always kind of think of like, where is that line when I think these drug addicts need to get sober? Do I really know that sobriety is best for them? To the extent that their drug addiction interferes with other people in the community, then yes, because your freedom isn't free if it costs someone else, right? And so when we look at like it, this is an important concept, I think, when we look at public systems of governance and public welfare, human welfare management. We should not be thinking we know what's best for people. Let the people decide what they want.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the ambition. I appreciate wanting to grow and develop and make nice our cities. But don't think, I don't want these people who are in decision making positions to think that they know what's best for everyone and that they get to decide.
Well, it's the way they go about it, because
Yeah.
so you and I are opinionated. We have what we think is best, right?
Yeah.
But here's the difference. If we were, but if we were in a position of power, the difference is that we would use our leadership role to articulate our vision, articulate our plan to the people, gain a consensus, if that's what we can do. And if and only if we gain that consensus, will we move forward with a plan. That's not what our current leadership does. They barely articulate their vision. Sometimes they hide what they're doing, and they just bully their way to get what they want. They demand that vision is seen through and developed without really any regard for whether or not it's something that the people want. They kind of just go, well, if you don't like it, you can replace me. And it's like, well, we hope to, but that doesn't absolve you of responsibility to articulate a vision and gain a consensus around it. You have to do both of those things. It's wild. Or what they'll do is they'll try and gain a consensus without articulating the actual vision, right? They'll bypass that step. They'll be sneaky about it.
They know what's best.
Right. And I feel like they did that with the tax levy, the jail thing. It was like they wanted to gain a consensus on the ballot, but they did not want to explain all the details of what that new tax, where it would go, how it would be spent, how it would be managed, what we'd actually get from it. They did not articulate the vision. They just wanted the consensus. It wasn't
going to change anything. That's why I voted no, because that levy would not have changed anything. It wouldn't have fixed the problem. And so let's not spend money on things that don't fix problems. I found that quote that I wanted, the other quote. I love quotes. You can tell a bully from a leader by how they treat people who disagree with them.
Yep.
I love that. I love that because, even if someone disagrees with you, you should thank them because they have taught you something. They've taught you something at least about the way people see you. They have at least shown you another perspective that you can either choose to acknowledge or choose to reject, but they taught you something and you should be grateful for that. All of us should. Treating people who disagree with you with respect should be like a requirement. And I don't know. I don't like what happened to the school board. I think it was unfair. I think it was unsavory. I think it was unbecoming of leadership. It was not, this press release on the North Bend website really just kind of like has me feeling some kind of way. I don't like it at all.
Well, what you don't like is you thought you knew someone. You thought you knew who Jessica Engelke was and who the mayor is, and you don't.
Is that what it takes to get ahead? Is that what it takes to become mayor? Like, do you have to strong arm people when you don't get what you want? I just wonder, like, if I try to, get into a leadership role, am I going to fail because I'm not?
Yeah. I mean, you might have hit something there. I mean, there's a reason why certain people do better in business than others. And there's a reason why all these people are leaders and we're not, maybe there's a reason for it. So
I've had to do a lot of thinking about what kind of leader I want to be, Chris. And like, who do I want to look up to? Who do I want to emulate? And I cannot find a single person in power that inspires me to be like them. I can only think of one person recently who motivates me to be a kind of way. And that is Ricky Gervais at the 2020 Golden Globe.
There you go.
That's the kind of leader I want to be.
I like JD Vance. He's
I that's fair, yeah.
man, like him and Kayleigh McEnany, she was the old press secretary under Trump. The two of them, the amount of research they do on
with her
the way they can articulate it, and the way they can articulate it, that inspires me. That would be my goal. If I could reach that level someday, that would be not the level of vice president, but the level of awareness around issues, having the facts, being able to articulate them, defend my position. But yeah, not around here locally, you know. Although I will say, North Bend School Board, like, I mean, I'm a little biased because I was against the vote. Like, I did not want it to pass. So the 6 who voted against it, I'm like, yes, major kudos. But
bullied into doing something that they were uncomfortable doing.
They didn't just vote no. They articulated why, and they defended their position brilliantly. They used facts. The city would try to say that it was misinformation and fake news and bad statistics and blah blah blah, but it wasn't. But of all of them, Michelle Roberts posted a thing online. She was one of the school board members, and she really spelled out.
Nicole Taylor sent me something too.
Yeah, Rod Taylor's wife. So Michelle Roberts posted this thing, and it just shows that she really has her head in the right place. She figured out the whole picture, and she saw through all the mess that they were trying to make of it. And that's cool.
The decision they made for a reason, and their reason deserves respect. And you know, I said boundaries, and it kind of like made my little brain go, this really was like, this was a boundary violation for them. The school board said, we're uncomfortable making this decision, and they got attacked for it. The school board put up a boundary and said, this doesn't feel right to us. This doesn't feel like we don't want to carry the responsibility of this. And them saying, we're uncomfortable, we don't want to take on this responsibility, and they got attacked for it.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. Like
they got attacked for doing their job.
That's crazy. You know, they refused to do something that they were uncomfortable doing. And the right thing for the mayor to do would be to say, I'm very disappointed with the outcome. I did want a different outcome, but I respect the school board's decision to not vote through something that they were uncomfortable voting through, even if I disagree with them.
She could have mentioned that she was appreciative of the school board allowing everyone to talk. Instead, she criticized them for allowing everyone to talk, which was the very thing she asked them to do 48 hours prior. But you know what? I'll say it. I just think she's a shitty person, ultimately, for doing something like that. Only a shitty person would do that. I hope the best for her in the future, and she can learn from this and not be a shitty person going forward. But that's a really shitty thing to do. And I've done shitty things in my life. I'm not perfect, but
I'm not going to say she's a shitty person, but I will.
She did a shitty thing. Sorry. Yes.
She did a shitty thing.
I don't know her heart, and I don't know her as a person that well. So you're right. I should not say that she is a permanent shitty person, but she did a really shitty
thing to do. And I do think that, did I tell you I had a conversation with my coach about intention?
No.
Okay. So like I connected with my own professional life coach, and we were talking about navigating fear, because for me, doing this type of stuff is really scary. I'm super introverted.
The podcast, like public speaking?
All of it. Yes.
Okay.
Of it. And so I have always worked in the back room. I was a strategy person. I was a statistics person. I was an analysis person. I'm a data nerd at my heart. And so coming forward and doing this type of stuff is really scary for me, because I'm terrified of like the repercussions. I'm afraid of I'm a people pleaser. I want people to like me, yada, yada, yada. And so I was asking for some coaching around fear. And my coach was trying to lead me down the intention path. And she's like, listen, if your intention is the right place, your intention is pure, you should be able to trust that your pure intention is going to lead you to the right solutions. Because I'm like, what if I make a mistake? what if, and me and you know about like some of the things that might happen in the future. Thank you, Cheryl. But like, yeah, I'm really introverted and I get like, I actually have a ton of makeup on because I turn red and I get hives and I sweat. And I've always been that way. And so I used to put maxi pads in the armpits of my dress shirts when I would have to present information in front of like boards of directors and stuff like that. And so my coach is leading me down this path of like, if you just trust your intention, if your heart is pure. And I had to stop her and be like, listen, I'm just going to tell you that logical fallacy is the exact thing that gives me actual nightmares. Because trusting your intention and just relying on your intention leads you down this path where you don't question yourself because you become so sure that you're right and your belief becomes deeply ingrained with your identity. And so
what if you're always questioning your intentions though? Maybe that's kind of what
I think if you go to that next level of higher consciousness, yes. Yeah. There's definitely checks and balances that we can put on ourselves to make sure that we're always questioning ourselves. But I see people who I do believe people like Jessica have pure intention. I do believe their heart is in the right place. I think that they really do want the greater good. But when we don't question our intention, when we just think that we are doing the right thing because we intend to do the right thing, we can end up doing things that have terrible unanticipated consequences. And so that, I hate to conflate intention with who a person is or their actions or the outcomes of their actions with who a person is, because intentions can lead us down a hell of a really dark path. And we
probably a little bit of both, right? Probably more of an art than a science sort of thing. But
definitely.
All I can say is it wasn't a good look, but
no, it's not. It looks like bullying. Like
and
really
to talk about
aggressive bullying.
Some other leaders who are messing up. We've got a community college that in 2010 hired a sex offender on parole from Eugene who molested 2 of his students at a school in Eugene.
You want to pull up the text messages?
Oh, I don't think I have them. The ones that you sent me? I don't have them. We'll have to do it on another show. We've been at it for an hour and a half, so we probably shouldn't get into it. But briefly, though, people have reached out to us about this because we've been talking about it on many shows. And yeah, we've got a college board who is defending. They put out a press release. They've defended the fact that they've had the sex offender working for the college in a GED position. He's the director of pre-college tutoring and education. He's the director of the GED program, working directly with the same age
they said
people
not.
Of his victims. They claim he's not, but we know he's not. We know he is.
We now have text message. We have rock solid evidence, and
they're liars and they're disgusting.
They lie. He's working with the exact demographic that he abused.
Yeah.
And
he's in heaven. He's in sex offender heaven. The director of the GED program. That's like he probably sat in jail for 2 years and was like, if I could just get a magic genie to give me exactly what I want, it would be the director of the GED program. I'm going to work with this. Maybe this, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's like GED people in the GED program usually are people who, aren't on the normal path. Right. And I feel like as a sex offender, if you are a predator, right, they're vulnerable. If you're a sex offender and you're a predator, I feel like the GED program, that bucket of people that go through that program is more vulnerable, right? Like he was part of this program called the Trio, I don't know, I forget the name of it, something Trio something at the community college. And what it was is for underperforming 9th and 10th graders at Marshfield High School and North Bend High School. So if you were getting like C's in your class, you'd be you were enrolled in this Trio. It was the Upward Bound program, and it was to help your grades come up. So you'd go to tutoring with this sex offender at the community college. I mean, it's like you can't make this stuff up. It's disgusting. And you have, so there are 4 positions up for election. So if anybody's listening or you know of somebody,
Please, yes.
let them know
Run
that
for
there
the
are 4,
school board.
or it's the college board. You can also run for the
College
school board.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Cheryl says he should have changed his profession after prison.
Yes.
I mean, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
that should have been
how does that make sense
required.
to us and to pretty much everyone else on the planet, but does not make sense to, and you would just have to get 4 out of 7 on the college board. So 4 people in all of Coos County can decide whether or not this guy works for the college. For some reason,
so a little teaser, I'll throw it out there. He is doing things like encouraging students to call him Uncle Curtis, and runs around barefoot and encourages students to take their shoes off. Now, these things may not seem like a big deal, and if it were anyone else, I might not think too much about it. But when you think of professional boundaries, we behave a certain way when we're being professional, and how we breach professional boundaries into familiarity, and how familiarity opens the door for inappropriate conversations, inappropriate touching, inappropriate comments. He should have the most rigid boundaries. He shouldn't even be in this position, period. But in his position, he should have nothing but
he wants to be that cool teacher.
Boundaries.
He really wants to be that cool teacher. You know, the no barefoot thing. The investigation that I read from the Eugene Police Department, I got the original investigation, and a lot of the people that came forward explained that he always had tons of kids over at his house.
Yep.
Kids were in and out of his house all the time, and a few of them felt very awkward around him and got uncomfortable at some times, and they eventually stopped going there. And it came up over and over again in the investigation. He wants to be the cool guy. He wants to be Uncle Curtis. It's disgusting.
It's inappropriate. Highly, highly inappropriate. Yeah, it is fetishy. I'll give you that. Like, I love my bare feet. I love like being barefoot. Don't get me wrong. But like when it comes to being in a professional setting, like I don't take my shoes off at work.
Right.
Okay. No one should be taking their shoes off at work unless it's literally part of your job to like take your shoes off. And I don't think it is for teachers.
And guys, for people watching, not just like picking on the guy. We've heard this from multiple sources that he's the barefoot professor. This is what he does.
And he is proctoring GED exams. And so some of the whistleblowers are afraid to come forward because they're afraid that there will be retaliated against.
Yeah, this one's the best comment, I think, of the night. Puke emoji. I agree, Jeff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, can you even sum it up a better way?
Well, I don't think we should get into it anymore because we've done it before, and we want to give people something constructive to do. So we're probably going to stage some protests at the college, and we're going to brainstorm a little more. If you guys have any ideas on what to do about this, we shouldn't have people. What did you said the other night? Person crimes, or anyone who's been
person on person crimes. Yes.
Person on person crimes. Certainly sexual assault should not be teaching at our community college. And certainly
people, period.
Right. Certainly never anybody who has abused their power over another person in the past. Certainly not in a school setting. This guy performed oral. It was alleged that he was convicted of this charge that he performed oral sex on one of his students in the middle of class by in the auditorium. He was a theater teacher.
Wasn't there finger penetration as well with another student?
Yep.
Yeah, he was
pretty gross.
Diddling kids.
Yep.
He was diddling the youngsters. The
one allegation was that he would
now proctoring exams for.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty gross. But I think we're gonna do some demonstrations or protests. I think would be in store. We're gonna try and organize that, and
so run for the college board if you guys can. Run for all the boards that you can.
Or talk to people who might You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you're not
Tell
going to
your
do it,
friends.
spread the word. You know, like
Tell
encourage
your
other
friends.
people.
Because the boards control how these organizations behave. And so the more people that get active, the more control the public and vote no to every single freaking policy that they want to implement that's going to cost us money until they finally pay attention to public safety. That's the
Yeah.
only power we have. And I do support some of these initiatives that they want to raise tax money to improve our community. I do support it, but not until I feel safe out in our public spaces. That's the line
100%.
that I'm going to have to draw.
Well, and the people who are on the college board or the college president, you know, if you want a college that is employing sex offenders and you think that that's important, go start your own college, start your own private university. Don't do it with public funds.
Thank you.
You're disgusting.
Exactly.
You know, people call the homeless bums and all that. They call them feral. You know what's feral? A college president who defends a sex offender working for the college and giving them the director of GED position. That's some feral shit. So anyways, I'm out of stuff.
Yeah.
We're always trying to do this in an hour, and now it's an hour 40. But if you have anything,
we're doing better.
Yeah. All right. Maybe. Perry left us. He had something to attend to, but
I figured, yeah.
He
doesn't have patience for our shenanigans.
We went bowling the other night, and talk about criminal. Check this out. This was absolutely criminal.
Damn! Savagery.
Look at that. That's ridiculous.
I had no idea.
Like, let's watch. He just goes like it's nothing. He does the whole like side spinning thing.
Wow.
It was crazy. Anyways, I was gonna embarrass him when he was on the show, but he dropped off. So I'll have to wait for another time. But see, we're not all boring. Man, I can't bowl sober, and it's like a weird thing. I get like 60 or 70 if I bowl sober, and then all of a sudden I have a beer and I'm bowling like 130, 140. But
oh, how funny.
Perry just pulled that out of nowhere, stone cold sober. And yeah.
Nice work.
But Cheryl says, thank you guys. Have a good evening. Keep the good fight. You too, Cheryl.
Yeah, good night, Cheryl.
Thanks for always chiming in, and we appreciate your comments. We wouldn't have anything to talk about if people didn't put comments up here and encourage us. Maybe they shouldn't encourage us. Maybe we shouldn't talk this much. It's not good.
I think we just keep doing it.
All right.
I think it's a good thing. It's definitely making me stretch out of my comfort zone, so I'm appreciating it.
Yeah, I think it'll go somewhere. It's got a good vibe. It's got a good feeling. So I got our music playing.
Everybody.
That's our
Everyone have a good night.
10-second countdown. Have a good night, everybody. Appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks, Brandy.